I going? 21.6. I think I'd know what I was doing by now, right?
Why do we have no picture there?
Or I'm not. Oh, wait. Oh, no, we're still live on. Interesting. Cancel it, start again.
And we are live on 21.6 The Net. It is this week's episode of My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Shep. Mary, how about you update us on or recap last week's show for us?
So last week we had talked about some dips and sides and potlucks. The biggest takeaway from that with the questions and the feedback I got was to use sour cream or mascarpone instead of cream cheese or mayo or any of the higher sodium options that you can use for dips and stuff like that. There's quite a few recipes that I had posted. So if you're looking for any of them, I did post my cocktail sauce recipe, which you can use in place of a chili sauce for the meatball recipe that everybody uses, where it's chili sauce and grape jelly to make like a cocktail chili, cocktail meatball or something. My cocktail sauce works really well with grape jelly to be able to achieve that same thing. However, I did. I'll have to post a picture of it. I don't know if I did. I found an Asian chili sauce that's like a sweet and sour, but with chili flakes, so it turned out pretty good. I have yet to test it in that recipe to see if it also works, because it's really low, so I might actually end up doing that. A couple of questions that had come up. Some are, well, one is related to dips. Someone had asked about nutritional yeast that I used and what it is. What's nutritional yeast? And the other subsequent question was, can you use nutritional yeast to rise dough and stuff like that, like yeast is normally allowed to? And it's not at all. Nutritional yeast is actually dead yeast. It's in the processing of it, it kills the yeast. So it's a yeast flake, but it has to some people, a nutty or a cheesy kind of flavor. So it's used in a lot of vegan recipes as a substitute for those things. So it's kind of, a cheat, if you were, of that kind of stuff. So you can use it. So I've discovered that if you add it to dips, it adds that salted component. So like my ranch recipe that I posted were a ranch-ish. Because in my opinion, if it's not actual ranch, like name brand out of a bottle ranch, it doesn't taste like ranch. Even the powdered dips just taste like a salt block, especially now. They're still good. It's just not ranch. It's not quite the same. So that being said, it's kind of, I made a recipe where it's as close as I can get. And by adding that nutritional yeast, it enhances the flavor and it gives it a uniqueness that actually makes it taste like something that is close enough to ranch that actually makes me like it, because I'm really, really picky about my ranch dressing.
Well, yeah, anytime you have that, like if it's not the Hidden Valley Ranch,
right?
And I know we're throwing brands out there. So if Hidden Valley would love to sponsor My LoSo Lifestyle, but yeah, it's not. It doesn't taste like ranch.
No, it doesn't.
It just doesn't.
And one of the other things because I went a little long last week because, I'm a chatty Cathy. It's what I do.
Yeah, but that's all right.
I had forgotten to mention that because everybody knows I love talking about my cast iron. And a lot of times when you make dips, warm dips, like the artichoke dips and spinach dips and all those types of things, especially that it's nice to keep them warm for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. But if you put them in those little crock pots and then they start getting too hot and they turn into some weird liquid form with a crusty edge, and it's kind of gross and kind of not. And so I found that when you heat up a small cast iron pan in the oven, and either flat out just cook your dip in it and you get caramelized cheese on the outside, which is nice, or you just use the cast iron, the heat retains for so long that you can it keeps it warm for a considerable period of time. So use number 562 million for cast iron. But yes, nutritional yeast adds, some people actually it's not my favorite to put on like popcorn, but it's still it still does kind of add almost like a powdered cheese flavor to popcorn, but it's really low in sodium. Now, I will say that with nutritional yeast, you have to be careful because it is high in fiber. And some people, the same as they're sodium sensitive, they're yeast sensitive. So it's still, especially being high in fiber, it can upset your stomach. So if you're not someone who has a high fiber diet and then you say, hey, nutritional yeast, this stuff is really good for you, and you down a bunch of it, you might as well just go and eat a can of beans because it's probably going to have the same effect. So you do got to be a little bit careful with nutritional yeast if it's not something that you've had. Now in my ranch recipe, I only use like a tablespoon, so it's not a lot.
Yeah.
But if, like vegans and stuff like that who need fiber and protein and all those things, they use a lot more of it, but their body is used to it. So yeah, you should be a little bit better on that.
Oh, cool. All right. So now you've got a note here that it's sold in the form of flakes or as a yellow powder.
Yep.
So what does it matter what you get?
It looks like fish food.
Ew.
It looks like it's a big giant, almost like my coffee mug here. It's a tub, shakeable tub, and it's flakes. So it's like they dry and cake yeast and then they break it up and it turns into little tiny flakes. So it's just a yellow colored flake, almost like fish food is, where you take fish food out and it's that little tiny 1/4-inch flakes of almost like paper. But that's essentially what it is.
And so you just shake that on stuff, or do you mix it in?
You can both. You can do both. You, like with popcorn, you can literally just dust your popcorn with it, and it gives it a cheesy flavor to your popcorn. With my recipes, I just mix it right in because it adds that, I don't know what you'd call it. It's not quite umami, but it adds that cheesiness or nuttiness to it. So it feels like you've had a salted component when you don't, which is usually what you're trying to do with living low sodium. Is not, you're not fooling anybody. We've talked about that a million times. It's not salted. There's certain things that are just no substitute for salt. But it gives you that sensation as if you're getting a flavor instead of having something just be completely bland. Oh, hey, Dad.
So, yeah, there he is. We said hey to Phil and Hal. How you doing?
So this week we're talking about reading labels and grocery shopping. So labels are, no one ever reads them. And it's funny because when I talk about not having sodium or doing diet restrictions and changes, I tend to, I try to not be that person that's like, you need to do this because it's bad for you and you need to live my lifestyle. And like when someone quits smoking and they drive it down your throat that you shouldn't be a smoker, that drives me absolutely bonkers. People are adults. They can make their own decisions. So I try really hard not to be that person. But when someone tells me that they've started to pay attention, I call that a win. I think you've said that to me.
Yeah. Now you notice. I mean, I read labels for different reasons, but yeah, now I notice. I'm like, oh, there's a lot of freaking salt in this stuff.
Right. So the problem is one of the problems is the labels are based on a 2,000 calorie diet, and sometimes you get lucky, and labels will post the percentages and such for a 2,000 and a 2,500 calorie diet because it's supposed to be. The old school mentality was 2,000 for women and 2,500 for men because, men are supposed to do more and be these big hero people.
Well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue with you on that
right.
One,
but so you got to pay attention to what the label says. More often than not, it's going to be based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So the first thing is serving sizes. Serving sizes can trip you up very, very quickly. And it's something that comes up in our group often, where someone will post something that they found a bratwurst or a hot dog, something that everybody covets. So they get super excited because they found a hot dog or bratwurst that's like, oh my gosh, it's only 300 milligrams for the bratwurst. Okay, in theory, that's good. And then you look at the package and it says 16 servings. But there's only 5 bratwurst in the package. So it's not even half a bratwurst. It's like not even, it's like
you're supposed to cut it up?
Right. So manufacturers they don't want to necessarily always post. So the trick that they use with serving sizes is instead of going a serving size is one brat, which makes logic, is logical to you or me or anybody else on the planet. You tend to say they use the manipulation of ounces. So if a serving size is 3 ounces and a brat is 7.2 ounces, they say, okay, we're going to divide it up. So 3 ounces is this percentage of that brat. So versus using the common sense that one serving would be one item of that food, they break it up into ounces because why? If they want to put anything on that packaging that says low fat, low calorie, reduced, less, anything like that, they can now do that because per serving, they're meeting the regulations of the FDA to be able to say that something is low fat, which low calorie and low fat are the bigger ones than low sodium. But low sodium, reduced sodium, those are becoming more popular as well. But for them to be able to skirt around that so that they could advertise it to you as low calorie bratwurst, and you go, holy crap, I can eat this.
Yeah, but no, you can't really.
Right. And then you go, okay, I'm not going to eat a third of a brat.
Look,
it's like 3 bites in one brat. That's 3 servings. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
So
what do you have for dinner? A bite of brat.
Right. There was another one that came up recently. Someone posted in I think it was in the either Shaking the Salt or Hacking Salt, about, it was 46 servings. It was a gingerbread house. So she built a gingerbread house with her daughter. So then she goes to read the package. She says, I was going to nibble a little bit on it because it's sitting there and it's gingerbread. So why not? And it's made to be an edible gingerbread house. And it was 46. She's like, I just laughed and didn't eat any because how the hell do you figure out 46 servings?
Out of a gingerbread house.
Right. Which part of it, is it equal across the whole thing? Is it more or less if you eat the side that's got more frosting on it? Like it's, because it's a generalized term. So you really got to pay attention to the serving sizes. So every time I look at a label, the first thing I do is look at serving size. So like with bags of chips and things that are the impulse buys when you walk out of a store.
Yeah.
They're getting better where now they'll post that a bag of chips or something or cookies, it's the whole package is 1 serving. But you still got to pay attention because a lot of times that little tiny bag of chips at a checkout and you're like, oh, I'm starving, I'll just grab one of these real quick, and it's like 3 servings. You're going, no, it's not.
No, that's like 5 chips are in there.
Right. So
you're basically buying a bag of air with a few chips in it.
Right, exactly. So that and how much per serving and the entire package. Sometimes you get lucky and they'll list both the per 50 milligrams per serving and then 500 milligrams per package. The reason I say that is because like with the dips last week, when you look at, an onion soup dip or, any of those flavor packets that you use or the pre-made rice products where all you got to do is add water. It's got the seasoning packets and all that stuff, ramen noodles. When you look at the whole package, and it's 5,000 milligrams, because if it says 6 servings in a box and you think, oh, well, I that's fine because I'll have mine and then my husband eats the rest. Well, in actuality, you're probably eating 2 or 3 servings of it. And you're just either lying to yourself or fooling yourself into believing that you're actually only eating 1 serving of it when you're not. So
because unless you actually measure it out
right.
by weight,
right, exactly,
an actual ounce or
right.
2 ounce or whatever it is, you're not going to be within the scope of the serving information.
Exactly.
You're just not.
Right. And that's, I mean, my husband and I are fatties. You make something and it's like a jar of pasta sauce. Any pasta sauce is usually like 6 to 8 servings.
Mm.
We could, the 2 of us, depending on how much pasta we put it on, that'll be 1 dinner for us. Like it's just saucy pasta that night, and it turns into 2 servings.
So you basically have pasta soup, is what you're saying, right?
I like my sauce. Well, you got to have the little bread, and you dip it in the sauce, and then the sauce is gone. So it's kind of, it's kind of both. But so you do, if you pay attention to the serving size and then how much per the entire package, it can make a significant difference on how much that you're getting. And it makes sense when you go, okay, this is why I react more to this thing than I do to another, because I've been tricking myself this entire time into thinking I'm only eating 1 serving, when in actuality I had an entire bratwurst and it was 3 servings.
Yeah.
So you can't just look at it and say, okay, it's 50 milligrams of sodium per serving, I'm golden. you actually have to pay attention to how that relates to how much you're actually going to eat. So it's, and believe me, it almost on a weekly basis, and it's almost always bratwurst or sausage or Italian sausage, that someone posts something that says, look what I found. And they're ecstatic. And it's 300 milligrams, 350 milligrams of sodium. So they think they can have a bratwurst because they found something like that. Unless you're having a butcher make it for you, or you make it yourself. I make my own sausage because I'm just not going to find it low enough in a quantity that I'll use. And a lot of butchers are actually pretty nice. If you tell them what to put into it, they'll make, I mean, chances are it's going to be a huge batch, but they'll make it for you. They'll throw it together, and they don't charge much to do it either.
No, I would think that would be kind of pricey.
No, it's not. Especially if you are buying, you can buy like quarter cow, quarter pig, stuff like that.
Yeah. So
if you're buying in bulk from a butcher, and all our local butchers do it, they typically make their own. So I know our butcher right over the border here, they have like 30 different, you actually buy a bratwurst package. Apple brats, jalapeno brats, like you can buy a brat package and you get 5 of each one. So you can just specialize and say, hey, can you adjust this recipe for me? Because they're going to be making it anyways. So you just ask them. And a lot of them are very accommodating to that, especially if you're already buying a quarter of a cow or something, or a quarter of a pig.
Yeah, that's cool.
If they're making you sausage anyways, you just tell them to omit something or try and tweak the recipe. Simple Google search, you can find some low sodium sausage recipes.
Cool.
The percent of daily value. So this goes back to where I had talked about 2,000 calorie and 2,500 calorie diets.
Right. Yeah.
So at the same aspect of that, a per 2,000 calorie diet, the daily recommended percentage is 2,400 milligrams of sodium. Okay. On average, the most common restriction will put people at about 1,500 milligrams sodium. So if you have a heart condition, liver condition, kidney condition, whatever it is, your condition that your doctor has said that you need to reduce your sodium, right off the bat, the paperwork that I went home from with the hospital was 2,000 milligrams or 2 grams. And it's very common. And they flat out said 2,000 is your max, 1,500 is where you're going to feel good. And they were 100% correct. Huh. So if you look at it and it says it's 5% of your daily intake or 20% of your daily intake, that's based on 2,400 milligrams, not your 1,500. So you actually have to look and pay attention to what the actual milligram. Now, if you are on a normal intake of a 2,000 calorie diet with 2,400 milligrams a day, then yes, you actually want to look at it and you can get a good base. Anything on stuff that you should be less on, like fats and sodium, anything less than 5 or 10% is, pretty good. And then stuff you should get more of, like fiber and protein, anything more than 20% of your daily intake is good. So it's still a good reference, but it's too common of a mistake for people to make when you say, oh, this is only 5% of my day. If your day was 2,400 milligrams, but when your day is only, 1,500,
then that's not it. That's not the case at all.
There's one, there not just one, there's quite a few, but there's one lady that I talk to on a regular basis. Her restriction, if she goes up over 750 milligrams a day, she gets sick.
Wow.
So there's some people that are super heavily restricted. It's just, it is what it is. It's kind of, it's sad, but some people, their genetics just mean that they can't have salt at all.
Man, holy cow.
I never do because I can't. Phil says I never read labels because I can't. They're too small. This is true. You got to bring a magnifying glass with most of those.
Yeah, you might actually want to pick. I actually have a magnifying glass specifically for labels and fine print. I have it in a little bag that I carry all the time.
That's funny. Stephanie says, I thought one serving was equal to one sitting. I wholeheartedly agree with Stephanie. I feel that way with jars of salsa, that one sitting should be one serving. So one of the other things is nutritional terms. You need to know what your nutritional terms are.
Yeah.
So, and like I said before, with the serving sizes and how they manipulate those serving sizes to make it so that they can market how they want to market it. So the same as with the nutritional terms. So if they want to market as low sodium or low calorie or reduced calorie, no fat, no sugar, no salt added, there's actual regulations that say when they can do that. So low calories, 40 calories or less per serving, low cholesterol is 20 milligrams or less, and 2 grams or less of fat. Reduced simply means that it is 25% less than what a product normally is. So if a can of cream of broccoli soup is normally, 1,000 milligrams on average across the brands, then if they can put 25% less, they can label it as reduced.
So they only need to take out, 250 milligrams and they're good, and call it reduced. So you still pretty much have, there's not much difference between 750 and 1,000 at that point. And you're not going to feel a difference, and you're not going to taste a difference either.
Now, here's the funny thing is with the labels and like that, when you get to a threshold, like 410 milligrams is considered heart healthy. So when you go and look at soup, every single heart healthy soup just happens to be 410 milligrams of sodium. Like you couldn't have just overdid it and said it's only 200 milligrams of sodium and we still found a way to make it taste good. Every single one of them was like, all right, we can make it to 410 and still call it heart healthy. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to max it out across the board. Now, here's the other problem. Every single can of soup, all those thick and hearty, chunky soups are 2 servings. I have never in my life, and I think we talked about this before, never in my life split a can of soup with my husband.
I'm going to have soup for lunch. You think you could split that with me?
No.
I have a hefty can of soup there, because it's, oh my gosh.
Yeah. So reduced is just 25% less than what the product normally has. Calorie-free and sodium-free are pretty similar in the fact that, like, calorie-free, anything less than 5% of your daily value per serving is considered calorie-free.
Wait. What? Say that again.
So 5% or less of your daily intake per serving is considered calorie-free. Now, if it's one of those things, so I'll take coffee creamer, for example.
Okay.
Coffee creamer is always, they don't really advertise low sodium, but they always say calorie-free, sugar-free, fat-free, whatever free. Why? Because there's 5,000 freaking servings in one jug of creamer. So if that one single solitary tablespoon of creamer that nobody ever uses, a single tablespoon of creamer, is less than 5, it's either 5% or 5 milligram. I think with calories, it's 5%. With sodium, it's 5 milligrams. But if it's less than that, they can list it as 0. So they don't have to put 5. They can put 0 because it's a negligible amount. However, if you put 5 tablespoons of creamer in your coffee, and it is actually 5 milligrams or 5%, you've just calorically updated or sodium or whatever, because they're skirting the issue to be able to say that it is 0 or no. So some of the spray butters will actually put a per serving, which I think is listed as a 1/10 of a second spray.
How are you going to measure that as a serving?
I know.
Set your stopwatch. You're done.
I know. It's literally listed on there, a per percentage of a second spray.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. That's
really
the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And if you think about, if you put spray on, something like popcorn, you're not actually using it on a pan to do nonstick. If you're putting it on popcorn to get popcorn flavor, that's like half a can sprayed on that popcorn. I don't care who you are. So some of them have actually put the entire can of what it is and how much is in there. And you look at it, and I'm sorry, if it says real butter on the ingredients, it's got calories and fat, sodium, and all those things.
That's why it tastes good.
Right. So calorie-free, same with fat-free and sugar-free, less than 0.5 gram per serving is considered fat-free or sugar-free. So again, if you are eating more than one serving, which more than likely you are, you're getting more than what you thought you did, because it said it's fat-free, sodium-free, sugar-free, whatever free. So you're thinking you've got free reign.
You got nothing
to do whatever you want. And granted, it is still negligible. So if you are someone like me, I drink both black coffee and cream. I like flavored creams. It's just tasty. But I don't put a tablespoon, those little single serving things you get at a restaurant. That's how much you're supposed to use. I use like 5 of them. And it's still only, 25 milligrams of sodium or whatever it may be. But for people who are on that 500 or 700 restriction, that's a lot. That it can add up fast when you're so restricted, and all of a sudden something you thought you could have and you can't.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where you got to pay attention, because just because it says fat-free or sugar-free, if you flip it around and it says it's got, 400 servings in a jar, chances are you might need to do a little bit of math to figure it out.
Yeah, you probably, because now that it's out again, because 'tis the season, I actually like to put a bit of eggnog in my coffee. And
I don't mind eggnog.
I got a bit of eggnog at home, and I usually put, I usually put a little layer. I don't measure it out, but I was looking at that. It's actually really, it's got a lot of salt. It's got massive amounts of fat, but I get the full fat, full everything, because I want it to taste good.
Right.
So, but I throw a little bit of eggnog in there instead of the creamer. Now, usually when I use I use whipping cream for creamer. And that's actually really good. Yeah,
it is really good.
I love the whipping cream.
I usually have whipping cream in my fridge. It's funny, my husband likes to shake. So if you have, ketchup or barbecue sauce or anything, it doesn't necessarily need to be shaken. He's just in this habit, like salad dressing, like Italian salad dressing. You're going to have to shake it because it separates. He shakes everything. Well, the one time I bought heavy whipping cream and he shaked it so hard, I opened the lid and I went to pour it out.
Was it all curdled?
It was whipped.
Yeah, it was all, okay.
All right, well, okay.
You can't do that. You can't shake that stuff. That's funny though.
So now the difference between, like, with the fat-free and salt-free and stuff like that, the sodium-free, not only does it have to be less than 5 milligrams, it also means that there's no sodium chloride added. So it means that all of the sodium that's in there is naturally occurring. So it is a low sodium product, but you still can be fooled based on certain things on how much you're actually getting. Very low sodium is 35 milligrams or less per serving, and then low sodium is 140 milligrams or less per serving. So you manufacturers specifically put terms on products to sell them. It's not new news to anybody, but we all fall for it. So another brand that I'd love to sponsor me was Hunt's.
Yeah. Heard that, Hunt's?
They make a tomato paste. And some of our members in our Shaking the Salt group had actually emailed corporate and said, what's the deal? Because your low sodium and your regular tomato paste are exactly the same. There's no difference. So there must be a mistake. And they said, well, no, actually, it's the same product manufactured in the same facility. We just put one label on one and one label on the other because people weren't paying attention to the labels to discover that our products were salt-free.
Oy.
So it's the same exact thing, but because nobody would bother to look at the label, they never understood that is a sodium-free product. It's all natural ingredients. So kudos to them for making product that didn't have 400 million milligrams of stuff in it. But it's still, it's funny that the common thing is to not pay attention to things that you don't start paying attention until someone actually marks it as low sodium just so you'll buy it. So,
well, I mean, it works because when you're on these things,
right.
If you're looking for low sodium or sugar free or fat free or whatever it is free of, which is many times free of flavor, but that's what you're going to buy because it's what you're out there looking for. And if you see it, you're gonna latch onto it. You're gonna grab it. So now.
Oh yeah. So and we'll actually we're getting close to that. Check your ingredients list because I think she means fake.
Is there fake salt like fact sugar?
Yeah,
fake salt,
sugar.
fake sugar. Yeah.
And there is. And that's actually kind of next on my list here with ingredients where you got to pay attention to the ingredients because the same with sugars where aspartame, which is horrible, like bugs won't even eat the stuff. You can put a line of aspartame on the floor like cocaine and a cockroach will walk around it and go for the real sugar.
Yeah, that was, I had issues with that stuff. It was like
a lot of people
a bad no thing for me.
But if you pay attention to the ingredients list, it gives you some insight into whether or not there is a substitute product being used. Additionally, manufacturers are required to list ingredients on a food label, and the ingredients are listed by predominance, by weight. So if sugar is the number one ingredient, and it's the same across all labels, all brands, whatever is the most by volume is what's listed first. So if salt is the last thing that's on the list, or sugar is the last thing on the list, it's probably pretty low. But if it also says that it's a no salt product or a no sugar product, and you see something like, aspartame, or I forget what the sucralose or something like that.
Yeah, sucralose is really, no.
So all those other fake sugars, the same with salt. The number one salt substitute is potassium chloride. So same as sodium chloride, potassium chloride has a salted flavor. The only other mineral that's been found that tastes anything like it is lithium, which is poisonous, so they don't use lithium. But potassium chloride is also very dangerous in its own right. You need it to survive. You need potassium to live, the same as you need sodium and all these other minerals.
All right. Well, let's come back to that. Hold that thought for a second. Let's come back, because we're right at the point. We're at the bottom of the hour, 11:30. And we do want to say thank you to some of our partners here at 216 The Net. Folks like, Prime Media Consulting, LLC, 847-752-0018, primemediaconsulting.com. If you've ever wondered why your website is not showing up online where you want it to be, and you want to make sure you're found when someone is searching for your kind of business, call Prime Media Consulting. They help small business owners optimize their exposure on major search engines to transform their business. Call Prime Media Consulting today at 847-752-0018, or reach out to them on the web at primemediaconsulting.com and learn how they can make your impression on the web. Additionally, wonderful partners like McHenry Villa, a senior living community, at 815-344-0246, McHenryVilla.com. McHenry Villa is committed to the core values of hospitality, stewardship, integrity, respect, and humor. At McHenry Villa, their goal is to make you feel comfortable at home. McHenry Villa, a senior living community, 815-344-0246, McHenryVilla.com. And of course, you are listening to My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Shep on 216 The Net, 216thenet.com. Mary, let's get back to that discussion.
So, ingredients lists, and so some ingredients are allowed to be called collective ingredients if they don't affect the nutritional outcome of a product or cause an allergy. They can get away with calling it spices, artificial flavoring, artificial coloring, all of those things. So if it doesn't affect the nutritional value of it, that's where you see the things that say, artificial spices and flavorings. But the potassium chloride is one that you need to watch out for as a salt substitute, just because it interacts with a lot of medications, especially heart medications. And I'm surprised at how often people leave the hospital and they're not told that they need to watch for potassium chloride. They're told you got to watch your potassium, don't eat too many bananas or potatoes. But they don't say anything about potassium chloride being a salt substitute, because what's the first thing you do is you go to the store. That's what I did. So I'm looking for all this stuff, and I find these things that taste great, and then discover that they taste great because they taste salted, because they have potassium chloride in it, which is interacting with all of the medications I was on. So there is fake salt, just like there is fake sugar. And you have to watch out for it, because the majority of the time it is just as bad. So you do have to kind of watch for all of those hidden things and pay attention to your labels. My rule of thumb has always been, if I can't read it, if I don't recognize it, I don't eat it.
You can't pronounce it. You don't put it in your mouth, right?
Well, it's amazing to me how many people are like, oh, I don't care. Really? You don't. So if I just handed you a pile of stuff and it smelled like tar and said, but it's good for you, you're going to look at me and say, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to eat it. But yet you suddenly trust what someone puts on a manufactured label. Yeah. Like, you have this blind faith that, this it's like 7 different alphabets put together in one, and it's some chemically made something or other that's an artificial flavoring that makes your food taste good. And you say, yeah, sure, why not? I'll have that.
Because the FDA said, hey, you have to put that on the label. So if it's okay to be on the label, it's probably okay to put in my mouth.
Well, my argument is the FDA also says that 2 tablespoons of salsa is 1 serving, which is just wrong.
Right.
Or one or two cookies is one serving. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Nah, there's or like no, because I think it says the exact same thing on a package of Oreo thins as it does on the double stuff. So how is that right?
Well, I think Oreo thins you get 4 cookies, and double stuff you get 1 cookie.
Really?
And then regular Oreos you get 2 cookies. So essentially, they just took a double stuff, and if you cut it in 4, that's a thin.
That's so dumb.
So
That's
it's
so
funny.
dumb.
I had Oreo thins last night as a snack.
Good for you.
Right.
They're not bad.
I see. It's just a guilty pleasure. I'm an Oreo girl. I love if you take 2 Oreo cookies. You know how you make s'mores.
Yeah.
So if you use those to pull a marshmallow off of a stick, it's like an Oreo s'more.
Oh, that
And
sounds
they're
pretty good.
Really tasty.
Oreo s'mores.
Yeah.
I might try that.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
It's even better when you put a big chunk of chocolate in there and then do it. But
Well, I mean, I was going to go full s'more.
Right.
So, but
Full
yeah.
s'more.
Hey, you got it. When you're going to go s'more, you got to go full s'more.
That's hilarious.
So,
So yeah, some hidden salts. People are more familiar with the hidden sodiums. Same with hidden sugars. They just don't pay attention to the label. And a lot of times people don't, when I tell them like baking soda is sodium, they don't think about it until I say bisodium carbonate, and they go, oh yeah, that's right. It's sodium.
Yeah.
So sodium nitrate, sodium citrate, monosodium glutamate, which is MSG. That's one of those things where it's actually fairly low in sodium compared to or relative to the equal amount of salt. And of course, there's this big controversy about how MSG is bad for you. From everything that I can read and research, it's no better or worse than just about anything else, any salt or anything else you ingest. It just, apparently some people are sensitive to it.
Yeah, that's what I've discovered too.
Yeah.
I do think that MSG contains all the flavor.
Right, it does. And that's why people like it, because it's like a salt component. And it is less in sodium, but the same as sodium. Some people are just sensitive to it, so it got a bad rap because it made a bunch of people sick, not because it's bad or any worse for anything else. But sodium benzenate and baking soda and baking powder are obviously all sodium.
What's the difference between baking soda and baking powder?
Oh gosh, I knew you were going to ask me that. So I believe one needs an acid to activate and one doesn't. So I believe baking soda, and I might be 100% wrong on this. I can't remember which is which. I think baking soda needs an acid to activate and baking powder doesn't. It has a little bit of baking soda in it, but it also already has the acid mixed in, which is usually a cream of tartar. So I think baking powder is actually baking soda and cream of tartar, which is the acid to activate the soda once it hits with a liquid.
Huh.
Whereas baking soda is just baking soda, and so you have to be adding a yogurt or a sour cream or a buttermilk or something of that nature to actually activate the soda in it, I believe.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. That's good. I see now. I learned something because I didn't know.
I might have those reversed, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, either way, we know one does one and one doesn't do the other.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now we know. So now you're talking about substitute ingredients that are used to get the same flavor can be just as bad. Like you've got potassium chloride here, and
that's the one that's usually the salt substitute. And it, like I said, the reason it's bad is because it reacts with all these medications. The reason why it's reactive to so many medications is because a lot of medications are what they call potassium sparing. So when you have a liver, kidney, heart issue, anything like that, you tend to be on potassium sparing because they put you on diuretics. They put you on stuff to get rid of the water because you retain so much water. So when they put you on different diuretics to get rid of that excess water that you're hanging on to, you essentially piss out everything. All of your micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals, and all of that stuff just goes away. Well, you need potassium to live, but you can't overdo it. You can't underdo it. So if you are on a diuretic, they have potassium sparing, which means you save the potassium, but nothing else. So if you're saving all of the potassium from all of your food, you're going to be really high in potassium, but then it's going to be low on everything else. So now if you're a banana lover, potato lover, or anything like that, and you're eating all this stuff, or you're eating low sodium foods, that have potassium chloride substitute in it,
Yeah.
you're now putting yourself at significant risk.
You're going to have a bad
Right.
day.
Right.
Oy.
It's a very dangerous thing. So
and backing up a little bit, Alex Kolkowski asks or says we always ask for no MSG when we have Chinese food. So they like Chinese food with no flavor.
right.
And then he also asks, is Chinese food hard to eat for you?
Extremely. So it's one of those things it's coveted in our world, and we've talked about that a little bit. And the nice thing is places that use MSG, I can eat there because the MSG is lower in sodium, or they use amino acids, and those are both lower in sodium than actual salt or sodium chloride. So again, MSG, it's been tested and tested and tested and tested, and it's really not any worse for you than salt or anything else that they add to it. It's just that there's a lot of people, like with milk, there's a lot of people who are sensitive to it, so it got a really bad rap. Yeah.
So, okay, all right. Now, also, you had a note here about saline solutions, and then also about being mindful of regional variances. But let's talk about what's the deal with saline solutions.
Saline, and it was funny because as I was typing up my notes and I was trying to decide where to put this, whether it was with the watching the labels or in grocery shopping, and it's kind of twofold because you have to watch chicken, pork, stuff like that is more often than not in a saline solution or a salt solution, or it just purely says 10% solution added, which is ridiculous. But it's salt. It's just salt water. It's a brine. So you have flavored brines that people do all the time, especially coming on Thanksgiving, where you have a pre-brined turkey. So they inject it with a saline solution for flavor, and it's less likely to dry out your chicken, dry out your pork or poultry. It's easier to cook. So more often than not, it has that. However, on the grocery store side of this discussion today, they inject things with a saline solution because it makes it heavier, which means they can charge you more money.
Oh, so they're just adding weight
to
the product. That's nuts.
Yep.
Now, Alex asks again, by the way, Kent Jones says, suggests that cat is high in sodium. Oops, he means orange chicken.
So, cats are on average 65 to 75 milligrams of sodium. It's an average protein, but I wouldn't recommend, they're gnarly little creatures to catch. So
they can be tough.
Yeah.
Now, Alex also is, he says that's interesting with regard to saline solution. So when you go to the doctor and you need to get a saline drip, can you not get that? Is that a problem for you because of your sodium situation?
So yes and no. That's a loaded question. That's one of those ones where the risks outweigh, or the benefits outweigh the risks. You need the water, and when people are severely restricted. So if somebody, for say, is on a transplant list, and they're already retaining too much water, they're given medications to help alleviate the water retention. But B, the hospitals are typically well aware of those things, and they do actually give you something that's more of a reduced amount of a saline solution. But the amount of sodium in those saline solutions themselves are considerably low. It's something that comes up pretty common in our conversations in our groups about, someone goes into the hospital and they're on a water restriction and they're on liquid restriction and they're on salt restrictions, and then someone pumps them through 6 bags of saline solution. And even my last stint in the hospital, same thing. I was puffy. I was retaining quite a bit more water than I normally do, but I also felt better than I'd ever felt because I was actually properly hydrated. I'm borderline dehydrated on a regular basis because it eases the pressure and stuff like that on my joints and my muscles, and it reduces how much I cramp. But I have to keep a really fine balance. But that is 100% true, that the hospitals and the professionals are really well aware of that. But yeah, they're essentially injecting you with salt water.
Well, we're right about the 16-minute mark here. We have 16 minutes left in the show. Yeah, this has been a really, really interesting one. But I do want to get into your note about grocery stores and shopping and grocery shopping, all of this. And you've got you do start off with grocery stores are experts at putting food where they want you to buy it.
They are, and everybody thinks that they're experts at not falling to the tricks of the grocery stores. And in some aspects you are. You walk by the big giant end cap of potato chips and you laugh in your head and say, haha, I'm not falling for your trick. And then after your grocery shopping is done and now you're hungry and you end up buying the bag of chips on the end of the end cap. They pay people a lot of good money to put a grocery store specifically how it is, how it's laid out, all the way down to the color on the walls, the music that's playing, the temperature in the store. It is one of you want to learn marketing, go study a grocery store, because it is the king of marketing laid out in one big giant map for you. A couple of tips. The biggest one that that helped me, I've never been a list person and I don't really do it anymore. However, when I first started, I discovered if I created a list, when you're on a restriction, shop your list first and then go for all the other crap. You buy less. You are less overwhelmed when you go low sodium, low sugar, low whatever. It makes a big difference. So when you have a list and you say, okay, I got to get chicken, I got to get milk, and I got to get whatever. And then after you get your mainstays of what you need, and then you go through and say, okay, now I got time. Now I'm going to go find the Oreos. And that goes, eat before you shop. I am so guilty of that. Go to the grocery store hungry and I spend $300.
Yeah, I've done. But my wife and I have done that. And when we eat before we shop, then we go and they're like, "What do you want?" Oh, I'm not really hungry. I don't know what I want.
And then you buy 16 different meals.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, eat before you shop, and then shop from the outside. It's more and more common. The outside of the store has fresher items, the produce and stuff like that. Now, going back to why grocery stores do what they do. So why do you think milk is at the back of the store?
Well, they want you to walk, because everybody needs milk. It's like one of the staples: milk,
Right.
eggs, butter. Everybody's going to go get that kind of stuff, and they want you to walk through everything.
Right. And the argument has been made that it's because it's the outside of the store and that's where the freezers are. No, because my grocery store that I walk into, the first thing you walk into is the ice cream aisle. It's a cooler, you can put your milk there, but because most often you go for coffee creamer and milk, they put it at the back. So if you start with a list and say, I need milk, and I'm going to go back there and get it, and then go up and get all my other stuff and then shop, you buy less. So it's one of the many tricks that they use that you never really think of that they do.
Yeah. So now Alex has made a couple more comments here. He's quite the chatty fella, which is really cool. Alex says, I only shop through Peapod now. My wife does that too. She loves
another good tip.
Peapod. She really does. He says he only shops at the edges in the grocery store and then buys everything else through Amazon or Peapod. But yeah, my wife absolutely loves Peapod, and she only gets what, she's like, okay, we get this. Is there anything you want me to add? I'm like, I can't think of anything. And she's like, okay,
That's
done.
my husband.
Because, there's nothing for me to look at. I'm like, food. We got food?
Right.
Yeah, we got food. Okay, then I'm done.
Right. And it's true, but years ago, I used Peapod more for a selfish reason. I lived on the third floor of an apartment building, and, and they would bring all my groceries up.
Did you tip well?
I've always tipped well, but yeah, that was once I discovered Peapod, and I literally almost fell on the ice coming into my apartment complex, because not only was I on the third floor, but my parking lot was, way across the field. So I just bad location of my place, but.
Oh man. Talk a little bit about, you got a note here about tricks they use to get you to spend more. You talk about color schemes. What's up with that?
Oh yeah. They find that blues are more relaxing. So that most grocery stores have a lot of blues. Think about Jewel. Soft, warm colors, like your Thanksgiving colors, your light reds and stuff like that. So they do color schemes, and then brand price. Wow. I need more coffee today. Brand placement. The one big one is the smells, which is why you don't go to a grocery store hungry. You walk into a bakery first, almost always. And then when you come around the corner, you go to check out. A lot of places now have roasted peanuts or fresh made popcorn at checkout. So you have one after the other. And when you're shopping hungry, the next thing you know, even if you didn't buy the roasted peanuts, you buy salted peanuts at the checkout and you buy more stuff.
Yeah, well, that's where they put all the impulse buy stuff, and like some of the things that you see, I'm always curious what they actually are going to put up at the register, what they think people are going to grab on the way out, and some of that stuff is like, even looking at it, I'm like, I would never buy this.
Right.
Why on earth is this even up here? And it's weird. Some of it's really weird stuff. Like there was a laser pointer with a multicolor pen that was up there. I'm like, who goes?
Lady.
Oh. Well, see, there you go.
Yeah,
I freaking
they think about all that stuff.
See, I live with 4 cats and 4 dogs, and I don't think about it ever because they're not mine. And anyway, that's a whole other thing.
The other big thing is the 10 for 10. That's coming.
Yeah.
Now, if you pay attention, the soda water that I buy, every single time it says must buy 3 or must buy 5 to get that deal. But a lot of times, like the pastas and the soups and stuff that say 10 for 10, you buy 10 because you think you have to buy 10, and now you just up their average ticket because you bought $10 worth of stuff. They're not going to mark something up or down if their margins can't afford it. So if you pay attention to the label and you still only have to buy 1 to get that price, you don't need to buy 10. So you got to just pay attention to the labels, not only on your food, but in the grocery store, because if it doesn't say you must buy 10 to get that deal, you don't have to buy 10 of them. Don't waste your money.
Yeah. And that's, like even now, because I'll see that 10 for whatever, we'll be going through it, and I'll ask my wife, I'm like, is that something, because she reads all these things, she reads all the flyers, she reads all the stuff. She's like the massive queen of sale and coupon shopping. I'm like, oh, is that something where we got to get like 5 of those? Because there's no way I'm having 5 of those things. And then she's like, oh no, you just get one at the same price, whatever. It's just how they get you to buy more.
And they do the same thing. And I don't think that it's necessarily intended to make you not or choose less healthy options. I don't think the grocery stores really give a shit about your healthy options.
No,
they don't. However, based on just statistics on what people are going to buy. So if you're looking for low sodium or low fat or low calorie, unless it's something that's popular. So if low fat is popular right now, that's what's going to be at eye level.
Yeah.
But it's not a coincidence that the unsalted peanuts are at the bottom shelf. You have a whole 8-foot section of peanuts, and the most expensive ones are at eye level. And then below it, typically you have the most popular ones just below it, because they're trying to get you to buy the most expensive ones, but they know the most popular ones are right there. And then you have your healthy options up top and your oddball, no salt, no whatever, gluten-free, whatever crazy ones at the bottom
like
shelf.
the brand, the no-name brand, or the blind label brand or whatever down at the bottom, where they only spent 50 cents on the marketing package, so it's a lot cheaper. Same dang nuts, probably came from the same damn factory, just put it in a different box.
Right. And the only time you tend to deviate from that marketing structure is if a brand specifically pays to be there. So if a low sodium, like Lay's has a low sodium salt or a low sodium chip option, and it's right at eye level. Why? Because they're trying to push that product. So they pay to be in a certain position in a planogram for that luxury. So they're paying more money, which chances are means that you're paying more money for the product as well. But if you're looking for a low sodium or a low something or a reduced this, that, or the other option, chances are you need to look up or down and you'll find it.
Yeah.
And it's there. Or because somebody else was looking for something, actually in my story on my page, that was one of the reasons I had a breakdown, because I couldn't find no salt peas. I've avoided them all my life. I love peas, but I always avoided the low sodium, no salt options because of that. And they were just because someone before me had destroyed the entire shelf. Like, here I'm in the middle of a grocery store, pissed off because someone was inconsiderate and just destroyed an entire aisle and left it that way. Like, so yeah, but you got to look for it sometimes.
Yeah, there are inconsiderate shoppers everywhere. But I like peas too, but I didn't never even thought to look for no salt or whatever. I just like peas. I do not like vegetables. I don't. I'll do peas and carrots and corn, and that's pretty much it. And if anything is yellow, it's a vegetable. Don't care what it is. I still think that
it's hilarious that you picked yellow as a vegetable color.
Hey, because it's corn. So, and I
Corn
don't
is a
think,
vegetable.
yeah, I don't,
It's-
yeah, corn's not technically a vegetable, is it?
No, I
So,
mean, it's
but
also one that's hard to digest. Well, the skin is hard to digest.
I mean,
The
I
insides
don't
are
care.
fine.
I like corn. I like cream corn.
Right.
I have not had that in a long time though. I just thought of it. Maybe I'll get some later.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
no,
know.
that's actually the byproduct of corn is cream corn is because it's the milk from when they take the corn off the husks, all of the corn milk of
Well,
that. They just
evidently,
add a starch, like cornstarch into it to thicken it up. So it's essentially corn
corn
milk
milk
from husking it and
from
then the
husking.
crappy bits that didn't come off clean.
Evidently, all that tastes really good to me.
Right.
I like cream. I haven't even thought of cream corn in a while.
Right.
But
Another
anyway.
trick that grocery stores use to get you to spend more money is industry terms. Now, granted, some of those industry terms are something that you're specifically shopping for, but don't be fooled because there's a big difference and variation in what they all mean. So know your terms. Like cage-free,
Mm-hmm.
you could have a huge pole barn with a bunch of chickens running around, and that's considered cage-free.
Yeah.
So they could be overcrowded, they could be whatever. Free range just means they get an X amount of time each day to actually run out and be free.
Yeah, there are actually I've done some spots in the past for companies that make farms that make eggs. Oh, they don't make the chickens make the freaking eggs, but but they're very specific about being pasture
Right.
raised and talk about what they do. They even one of them and this is where you're paying $6 for a dozen
Right.
eggs. This is not your grab 99-cent eggs for a dozen off the shelf. This is friggin' $6 for a dozen, but they're good.
Right.
They're actually really good.
They are.
But they even have on the inside, they have all kinds of marketing on that package. And inside they actually even have a little slip about their hen of the month.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell you all about this hen and why it's so happy and it gets to frolic out in the sun. And
it always cracks me up. It just hen of the month, cows, like you're gonna be in my hamburger. I don't want to know your name. I really don't. I just,
excuse me.
But yeah, free range. The other one is organic. So organic is a tricky one just because there's a difference between organic and made with organic ingredients. So USDA says if 95% of a product is made with organic ingredients, it can be called organic. If 70% is made with organic, then it can be labeled made with organic ingredients. So if you think you're getting something organic and you're paying more money for organic, and if you don't know anything about the company that made it, or it's not from an actual, farms pay a lot of money to be certified organic. So if the farm itself that something comes from, or where the ranch or wherever is certified organic, they pay a lot of money for that. And I'm not meaning like greasing some well, they might grease some politicians' hands, but there's a lot of certification that goes behind it. But that being said, if you buy a sausage from an organic farm with organic cattle but the casings are not organic because the casings are better from non-organic cattle, you're thinking you're getting one product and you're paying more money for it when you're actually not. So if you just got to pay attention because it's very easy to fall. It's the same with buying something that says low sodium and then you turn it around and it's low sodium because there's 50 servings in a jar and you've just been deceived because of that low sodium option.
Yeah. So, and organic, really, what you've noted here, it simply doesn't allow for the use of synthetic pesticides,
Mm-hmm.
herbicides, and chemical fertilizers.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really mean anything beyond that.
Right. There's still a lot of wiggle room, and there's the regulations have been getting better. But, all of these companies use all of these different tricks to make you pay more money. So like I said, when you start with a list and you go in and you know what you want, and if you are going to buy organic or you are going to do whatever, know what you're buying, pay attention to the companies, pay attention to the labels. And it seems overwhelming at first, but once you have researched one company and you know that you can buy from ABC Farms, that's now burnt in your brain.
Mm.
And you move on and you go to the next step and you go to the next step, and you just take things that one step at a time, and you realize that it's not as hard as you think it is.
Yeah.
When you go a little bit, bit by bit by bit, it makes things a whole lot easier if you don't think of it all at once as being so overwhelming.
So Alex commented here, Peter doesn't like peas or warm hugs. I love peas actually, but I do not like warm hugs. You're absolutely
me neither.
right.
I'm not a hugger.
Peas I'm fine and dandy with. Remember the Zach Morris Save the Bell commercial with subliminal messages? Totally still happens. And usually the grease is free at a farm. So now you know where to
That's
get
funny.
free
Yeah.
grease.
But no,
So
it's funny with eggs, especially these days. Instead of buying eggs at the grocery store,
yeah,
so many people raise chickens. You just find a local butcher, local farm, and they will sell them to you by the carton all day long.
awesome.
I'm
So,
a huge proponent
well,
of
we've
that.
got about 10 seconds left. How can they find more about you?
Oh, you can find all my recipes on my page at My LoSo Lifestyle. Obviously, you can see our show here on 216 The Net. You can find us on the Facebook page for 216 The Net, YouTube for 216 The Net, and you have My LoSo Lifestyle on YouTube as well.
Awesome. And we'll catch you all next week. My LoSo Lifestyle with Mary Shep, Thursdays at 11.
Zach Morris, bringing up Saved by the Bell references.